Everyone, good morning, everybody, and welcome to our Shir, Kol Shir, in partnership with Breslov.org and Sanity Daily with the Yeshiva Atera Shimon. Okay, so we're starting a new Sefer Devorim, and Sefer Devorim is the final Sefer of the Torah. Sefer Devorim was originally known as Mishnah Torah, and it was only later given the name of Devorim, right? Deuteronomy, right? There's so much talk about what is Sefer Devorim. What was the purpose of it? And again, in other words, if the Torah is not a storybook. There are halachas in Devarim, but most of the things that are in Devarim were a review, like Mishnah Torah, right? What's Mishnah Torah? Mishnah Torah means it's a review, right? It's a review. It's another teaching. It's a review of the Torah, so to say. So here's the thing. So Moshe Rabbeinu, on the final day of his life, was giving over and really pouring out his heart to Klal Yisrael. And giving us the Archas HaChaim that we need, the guidance in life to be successful. When we come to Eretz Yisrael, what to expect, what we need, and so on. And perhaps the words of the Torah that are so sweet and so delightful, because even though there's a lot of Musar, Moshe Rabbeinu is giving us Musar, and he recounts all of our shortcomings. And I believe, why is he doing that? Just to teach us that, you have to always remember what happened, but you always have to go forward. You have to always go forward. And it's good to make an accounting, and we always have to make a cheshbon and nefesh. But to know that there's always a hope, there's always a future, and we always have to go on. And that's an amazing thing that we have to know today also. And so I saw something so nice in the Parshat that we talk about it in the Parshat. We talk about when it comes to Moav, Moshe Rabbeinu said that, you can't don't cause them any pain, right? Rashi speaks about it and stuff. Why? Because we have to always remember that from Midian and Moav come who? Rus came from there, and Rus came from there, and that ultimately David HaMelech, which is David Malka Mashiach, and we're waiting desperately for David HaMelech to arrive today. Wow. Why does the world need it today, right? I mean, look what goes on in the world today. But just always remember, the first of the Animamins, Animam Buna Shlemish, Abayz Bo Shmeihu Vayre Omanik, L'Chola Brum, Hu Levade Osav Oisav Yasa L'Chola Mas. And we have to always remember that although we see these things in the world, and these world leaders, and all the different things, and the different governments, and all the different things, but really, Lemaisa, it's really all Hashem running everything. And we should never be worried about that, because again, HaKadosh Baruch Hu does everything always for our good. We know that it's Kol Ma David Rachmana L'Tav Ovid, even though we don't necessarily understand what's going on, but we have to know and believe the Emunah Shalema, that the Rebbeinu Shalem is really bringing the world through all of the things to its final Tikkun, which we're striving to for so many years. So look what it says over here. It's a beautiful Torah. Bishvil shtei. Oh, it says al tatzar esmayav. Don't pain them. Why? Bishvil shtei preidos toivos sheyotza mehem. There were two wonderful prayers, that the things that came out, taitzos that came out. Shem rusa mayavia v'nama ha'amoinis, from both Rus and the Amma, right? And it's an amazing, and the Rebbe is going to speak about it. He's going to tell us what the importance of it is. Shemehem Yotzu David v'Yotzei Chalatzav, and from them came out David, and then those that came from their offspring. Shem Bechinas Mashiach Sheyetzei Mehem, and that's the idea of Mashiach. Sheyavai b'mkarev b'yameinu mamish, we're waiting from them. Kiyika Gula Sheti Ayidei Moshiach Sheyavai B'Meir V'Yameinu Ayidei Asimcha Gedoyla Sheyioz. Oh, look at this! Could you imagine, Chaver, what a simcha it's going to be when Mashiach comes, and he's going to be Megala, the Yichud Hashem, and that's only Hashem, and it's not all these governments and all the Ra will just cease to exist. Can you imagine what a simcha that's going to be for the world? There's simcha that'll be at that time. That everyone will recognize. V'yedu and know. They'll know the greatness and the oneness of the HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Tigdal HaSimcha. That'll be the great simcha, because we'll all understand. Now we believe Shavisi Hashem Linegdik Summit. Kol Ma David Rachmana L'Tavid David. And we understand that all that really HaKadosh Baruch Hu is found everywhere. And then we use our emunah and we use our bitachon to go forward. But when we actually see it, when we see the oneness of Hashem, what a great simcha that'll be koydem for all of us that were maminim at the end of time. And we see that mamish we were correct, the whole time we believed in the Rabbeinu Shalom. That's a simcha right by alone. And how everyone will be able to come back to the Rabbeinu Shalom. Azma oid moed k'moshe kasav yismechu hashemayim v'sagil aretz v'yoymu b'goyim Hashem malach. Look at that. We say that every day in the Haidu, right? We say that every day. Yismechu hashemayim. The heavens will be joyful. V'sagil aretz, and there'll be a gila, like we say, gila rina v'ditza in the aretz. It'll be a song. It'll be a dance. V'yomer b'goyim Hashem malach. And the goyim then will say clearly that Hashem is the king. Hashem is the one that's ruling. We know the words so beautiful on that day. That was the Rabbeinu Shalom. This is who we believed in all through the years, the 3,000, and since Kabbalah's HaTorah was 3,334 years or something like that. Since Kabbalah's HaTorah, we believed in Rabbeinu Shalom the whole way. Nagila v'nismecha b'Yeshua Sai. We're going to have Gila, Simcha, and a salvation that He saved us. So many psukim come out from this, all these beautiful psukim that we're waiting to see. That'll be the main geula, when there's such a simcha in the world, and everyone will know, and we'll say it with a full mouth, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu, it's all Hashem. As Einoid Novada, it's only you, Hashem. Unbelievable. As we know, as it says, Ki b'simcha teitzeyu, right? We know those famous words. With simcha, we'll be able to go out. So you'll say to me now, but wait a second, it's the 9 days, right? It's the 9 days. And how can I be b'simcha? How I can be b'simcha, right? But if you notice, in Shulchan Aruch it says we have to be mamayit the simcha. It doesn't say in Shulchan Aruch it's not, we're not allowed to have simcha. We have to lower the simcha. We have to lower and the way we demonstrate our simcha. So we don't listen to music, and we don't do different things that we normally would do. Okay, we don't do things, but there's still a simcha to know the idea that HaKadosh Baruch Hu, when things got difficult between HaKadosh Baruch Hu and Klal Yisrael, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu wanted so badly to destroy Klal Yisrael, he said he did anyway, but we mamish believe B'emunah Shleima HaKadosh Baruch Hu never wanted to destroy Klal Yisrael, because HaKadosh Baruch Hu is our Avar Achaman. But even the fact that he said it, but at the end of the day, HaKadosh Baruch Hu allowed that His home, His Beis HaMikdash, His Kodesh Kodashim should be destroyed, and we should be saved, and Klal Yisrael should be saved. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu had the compassion on us, and we know that, and that's why on Tisha B'Av right? And that's why on Tisha B'Av we don't wear the talis and the tefillin in the morning. That's the pe'er, right? But we put it on in the afternoon. And why do we put it on in the afternoon? Because that's when they said that in the morning it was in the balance. What was going to happen? Was the Beis Hamikdash going to stay and we were going to be destroyed, chas v'sholom? Or was the Beis Hamikdash, are we going to be saved and the Beis Hamikdash will be destroyed? As soon as they set fire to the Beis Hamikdash, they set the fire in the afternoon, after the Chatzos, they set the fire. So then we realize that HaKadosh Baruch Hu chose us and not the Beis Hamikdash. And that's why we put on our tefillin, because that's a day of hope. The whole idea of Tisha B'Av is a day of hope. It's a day of hope. And we should always even have a level of Simcha to know even on that day, which is the saddest day in the calendar of Klal Yisrael. But even on that day, we still have to have a simcha in us, in our knowing that HaKadosh Baruch Hu keeps us alive, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu is always with us, and that HaKadosh Baruch Hu will never forsake us. To know that's so comforting, and that can bring a tremendous simcha to a person, an inner simcha. Not a simcha from the outside. It's not an external simcha. That's why we don't buy new things. We don't make a bracha shechiyanu. We don't do things external. But a simcha in my heart, I can always have a simcha in my heart, and we have to have that in order to be able to go on. So here we're seeing the whole idea. Rabbeinu Zal writes in Torah Chav Dalet, right, in Chelik Beis, in Tinyana Torah Yud, right, Shasimcha hu olam hacheres. Simcha is freedom. Simcha is from the world of freedom. People that are chas v'sholom, they're depressed. Those people they're in servitude. They're in bondage. They're servitude. They're bondage to their depression. If you want to be free, simcha is freedom. Ayin Sham, the Rebbe speaks about it a lot. It's amazing ideas. The whole idea of what simcha truly is. What simcha that we're Yidden. That HaKadosh Baruch Hu chose us. That we could be those that learn His Torah. That we could be connected to Him. That we could be the ones that do the mitzvahs. How wonderful that is. That's Cheres. That's Cheres. They ask people, they say, the Torah, a non-religious person will say, the Torah is so what's the word they would use? It's so constricting. It's constrictive, right? You can't do this, you can't do that. I can't do this. I want to do this, I can't do that. And they tells me I have to do this, right? But we know that that's the greatest cheres. In other words, when we follow the Hashem's will, we know it, and we're mamish b'simcha when we do our mitzvahs, and that's the greatest, beautiful thing that we have. Sha'simcha hu olam hacheres. Simcha is the world of freedom. Ayin Sham. V'oz is hapech kol hayogoyin va'anocha. Then HaKadosh Baruch Hu is going to transform and flip over all of the yogain, the pain, the tsaras, v'anocha, and the depression, everything that we have, the groan, the moan, the pains. Shu bechinas meriris hagolas. That's the whole idea of the bitterness of the golas. Is hapech the simcha, be turned over and transformed to simcha. Bechinas sasei v'simcha yasigu v'nasu yogain v'anocha. The Rebbe writes that in Torah Chav. In Torah Chav Dalet, also in Tinyan and Chelik Beis, right? He writes this, the whole idea of Yogain V'Anocha, V'Nasu Yogain V'Anocha. He gives the example like this. He said, if you're ever at a party, and there's a guy that stands in the corner, and everyone's dancing, and everyone's mamish b'simcha, but there's one guy standing in the corner, and this guy standing in the corner, he doesn't want to partake. So he says, what you have to do is you got to take that guy, and you drag him into the circle, drag him into the dance. Why? Because if you drag him into the dance, what you're going to do is the simcha will knock out of him that bitterness, and then he says, the Rebbe says over there, that person will come, and that person will become the life of the party. He'll transform. It'll transform. Oz is happy kola yogain v'anocha. Like the Rebbe said over here, like it says, Nossan v'simcha yasigu. When Nossan and Simcha attain it, grab it, v'nasu yogain v'anocha. Then yogain and anocha will run away. The yogain and anocha is no match. Is no match for Simcha. K'may shekosav afachti evlam l'sosay v'nichamtim v'simachtim miyogainam. Right, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu will turn away our veilus. It'll become joy, and we'll have nechama, and we'll have simcha from all of the pain that we had. V'alkein nimshecha nishmas Moshiach ayedei yisarusa de nukva daika, and therefore the whole ruach of Mashiach comes from the ruach of the nukva. Nukva means the side of feminism. Why feminism? We know that because of the thing that happened when Avram Avinu saved Lot, and then Sodom and Amorah was destroyed. Right? We know Sodom and Amorah was destroyed, and then the daughters of Lot thought that the world was destroyed. They thought everything was destroyed, and they thought that they were the only ones left in the world. It was only them and their father. So then they concocted this idea. They gave him to drink, and then the younger, she slept with Lot one night, and the next night the other one, right? And then from that came Maya Midian came from this. Amazing. Why? Because HaKadosh Baruch Hu sometimes does the seemingly strangest things in order to allow the greatest neshamas to come into the world. In other words, really, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, he runs the world with the idea that everything is balanced, right? HaKadosh Baruch Hu does everything in a balanced way. HaKadosh Baruch Hu does everything balanced. So whenever the Kedusha is, there's going to be the Tum. Everything is balanced. And when there's problems, so HaKadosh Baruch Hu sometimes he sets up the thing in a way so that the Satan should allow that neshama to come into the world. That neshama should come into it because it seems like nothing will come from it. But HaKadosh Baruch Hu has the ultimate plans. And that's why HaKadosh Baruch Hu did that. So it comes from the nukva, so the side of feminism. That's the side. Another strange story. What happened with the Ma'aseh Tamar and Yehuda? Right, all the husbands that she had, they all passed away. Unbelievable. All his sons passed away. Yehuda, they passed away. And then Yehuda figured out that really that Tamar was supposed to be it should be a thing of Yibum, right? And it's an amazing idea how this whole thing happened. The whole idea is unbelievable. How then she became pregnant with that story where he met her. He thought that she was a Zaina, and where she met, and then he was Megala. Then Yehuda was Megala. No, it was me. It wasn't that she was no. It was with me. He took the responsibility. Do you know what embarrassment he had? Yehuda was always considered the Malchus, and Yehuda said, "No, I was involved in that Maisa." Could you imagine that? Could we imagine that today? Would someone have the koyach to be able to do that? Wow. But again, these things happen. And what happened with the Maisa of Rusin Bayas? Bayas is the Gadol Adar, right? Bayas was the Gadol Adar at the time, right? He was the Gadol. Who was Rus? Rus was a Mayavia, a girl, a Mayavia. The whole Maisa that he took her in. It's strange, all strange things. Ki kol zehu bechinas is hapchus hayogain v'anocha l'simcha. That's the whole transformation of yogain and anocha to simcha. Shu Ika Bechinas Mashiach. That's the whole idea of Mashiach. Mashiach's going to come, and then all of the troubles and the pain that we go through, everything is going to be transformed, mamish, to Simcha. The Bechinas V'afachti Evlam L'sasai. I transform their avelis into sasai. Sasai. Amazing. Kikol elu haya kavanasam l'shem shemayim. Everything was done l'shem shemayim. Everything was done the right way. In other words, when the daughters of light, when they did that, they didn't mean to do anything to have an aveira. It wasn't an aveira. They thought they were doing the right thing. They were saving the world. When Yehuda with the Maisa over there, okay, again, there was no ill, there was nothing done. It was done in the right way. Everything was done the right way. It was done the right way. And then with Bayas, of course, and Rus, of course. Okay, Kavanasam says right. Kamavai b'divrei Rabbeinu Zal, Rabbi Seinu Zal, and Perish Rashi, v'sarusa kisha hasayrus. Min ha'isha l'shem shemayim lahachiyah zera lahamit toldos. What happened with the daughters of light? That's what they said. It was an awakening from the isha, from the girl, from the woman. L'shem shemayim lahachiyah zera lahamit toldos. In order that there should be people. Nimsa shayogoim v'anocha ba'atzmai nishapech l'simcha. That's the whole idea of the Isha, was the yogoin and anocha of the Isha to be mehapech to simcha. To be mehapech l'simcha. They say also, Rav Nossan writes in another place, the whole idea was Nadav and Avihu, right? The illustrious sons of Aharon and Kohen. And they said that one of the reasons why that they passed away was because they didn't want to get married. They felt that they didn't want to get married. Why didn't they want to get married? Because they were so involved in Kedusha. They didn't want to have to deal with women and all the things and all of that. So Rav Nossan says over there, because they weren't willing to be mishapech, the yogain v'anocha l'simcha, so therefore that's what happened to them. That's how it's so. We see the importance. This hapich l'simcha, because the side of the women, they come from that side of the yoga and v'anocha. They come from that side, and it's up to us to be misameach the isha. That's the whole idea of the shalom bayis, to make the woman happy, to give the woman a little credence, to show importance to the woman. V'anocha b'ritzayna nasais merkava el kedusha meyachash ritzayna lahamit toldos l'kiyam aylam shu b'china simcha. The whole idea of keeping the world going, that's an idea of simcha. Ki yichud the mitzvah l'kiyam aylam u b'china simcha. The whole idea of kiyam of the aylam, keeping the world in existing, that's simcha. V'al kein haya nefesh David nimshach misitra de nukfa kamuva. And therefore, David HaMelech comes from this side of the Nukva, of the side of the Yogain and the Anocha. Saying the whole chain of events, and where his neshama comes from, the tetzah from where his neshama comes from. It's Arusam. Kizer haya teikiv koichei shel David shehu bechinas Mashiach. David is an aspect, of course, we know David Malka Mashiachai. Of course, David Malka Mashiachai. Sheyesh leikoyach ayidei tfiloisav uzmiraisav, through David HaMelech's tefillah. David HaMelech poured his heart out to the Rabbeinu Shalom, all his life, and his miras, his song. Shishaim Sefer Tehillim. David HaMelech's Sefer Tehillim is all 10 different lashonis of negina, of song. We're going to see in a second. Jechiba bechinas asara mine negina. That's where the whole idea of Rabbi Nachman took out the idea of the Tikkun HaKlali from the 10 passages of the Tehillim, from the 10 different chapters of the Tehillim, from each one of the 10 different types of song, right? And that's the Tikkun HaKlali. David HaMelech wanted to take all of the yoga and v'anocha that's on the side of the feminism, to to take all the Yogan and Nacha and to transform it into Simcha. Shezeu Ika Shleimus HaGadlus HaSimcha. That's the greatness of Simcha. Shezeu Ika Tikkun VaGula Sheyia Yedei Moshiach B'china Sasei V'Simcha Yasigu. Right, so far. Anyone want to say anything on there? Any comments do we have on this? No? It's amazing ideas here. No? Everyone's good? Amazing. Wow. You want to say something, Ernie?
No, I'm fine.
Okay. Anyone, Martin? No? Okay, fine. Okay. Shayidei Ikra Tikkun Shel Kol Hanidochim B'Avenesayam Abayim Loshuv. That's the whole idea of the Tikkun. Through the Sefer Tehillim, through Moshiach, Bendability, and Mirz Hashem, all of the Nidachim, all of those that were pushed aside, pushed away, B'Avenesayam with their sins, Habayim Loshuv, they'll come back. She is taknu ayedei zedaike. They'll have a tikkun through this. Look at these beautiful words. I'm telling you, I love, we're in the 9 days now, so I figured this is like such a beautiful chizuk that we can have. We know that David HaMelech was in a sakana all his life. Why was David HaMelech in a sakana all his life? We know that David HaMelech was supposed to be born as a nephil, right? Gemara tells us David HaMelech was supposed to be born as a stillborn, right? But and we know that Adam Rishon was supposed to live for 1,000 years. But Adam Rishon lived only for 930 years. We say only, but he lived for 930 years. Why? Because he gave 70 years of his life to Mashiach, to David HaMelech. He gave it to David. Why? Because he understood. Adam Rishon understood that I need David HaMelech is going to come and make a tikkun for my mistakes that I've made in my life. So I'm going to give my time. Adam Rishon said, I'm going to give my 70, I'm going to take 70 years off of my life. I'll leave the world 70 years earlier, in order that David HaMelech should have a life in this world. Fascinating. I'm telling K'may Shekosov, Lulei Hashem Ezrasa Li, Kemat Shachna Duma Nafshi. As David HaMelech said, if not for HaKadosh Baruch Hu helping me, I would mamish fall into the duma, to the grave, to nothing. What would I have? Nothing. K'may Shekosov, Pesha Beini Uvein Hamaves. It was like in between life and death. Ki David because David HaMelech had no life for himself at all. Ki hayam Sitra Denukva, because he came from that life, that place of Sitra Denukva, the feminism. Sheheim Achizas HaYogan VaNocha. That's where the Yogan and Nocha is stemming from. And he came from that place of the Yogan and VaNocha, Bechina Sitra Demaisa, the side of death. And David HaMelech transformed it with the greatest transformation possible. He took that Yogain V'Anoch and he turned it into the greatest level of Simcha. Oh, amazing, right? Anyway. Ki heipach mi moves l'chayim yogim v'anoch, k'may shekosav afafuni chevlei moves. Tzara v'yogain emsa b'shem Hashem ekru. We say in the Hallel, right? These words of the Hallel. Ki chilatz the nafshi mi moves. HaKadosh Baruch Hu was saying, he was chilitz me from the movet, from death. Es eini mi dima. Es ragli mi dechi, from falling down, from stumbling. Es halich lifnei Hashem, I'll go ba'atzoi sachayeh. That's David HaMelech's words. Another beautiful idea when we say that, when we're going to say the Tehillim, and when you say the Hallel, look at these beautiful words. This is David HaMelech saying, look where he came from. Because he was able to with the greatest level of strength, to take the Yogain V'Anocha, and he was able to flip it over mamish to be Simcha. Through the sweetness of his song that he sung to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, no matter what he was going through. No matter what trouble David HaMelech was going through, and no one had a more difficult life than David HaMelech. Nobody had a more difficult life. He had a terrible childhood. As a child, he was pushed aside. He was never considered part of the regular family. right? So what kind of upbringing do we have? Right, today the kids say, oh, my father this, my father that, blah, 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 and that's why I'm this, like this, and this. I mean, he had the best excuses of anybody. The best excuses. My own parents didn't think anything of me. So how could I think of anything? But he didn't care. David HaMelech didn't care. He understood how important life was. He understood that he was mamish on borrowed time. Mamish on borrowed time. Everything meant so much to him. Oh, wow. But Kosh is a zochel tzayik. They read by tefillas of the Tchinos. The Tchinos said through David HaMelech's great volume of his tefillah and his tchina, his supplications, ubakoshes, in his requests, zochel litzayik tamid el Hashem. He would always cry out to Hashem, b'chol minei koiles, with all kinds of different expressions of voice, l'shoynes, in different kinds of expressions of tefillah, of simcha, of shira malais, mizmor David. Right, all the different l'shoynes, shel tza'ako tefillah v'tachnunim v'shiras v'shbachos. Shezeo kol sefer Tehillim. That's the whole idea of Sefer Tehillim. Shezeh b'chinas asara mina negina, the 10 different types of negina that are found in the Sefer Tehillim, which Rabbi Nachman explains to us that there's also 10 different types of pulses in our body. There's 10 different pulses of the blood. I guess there's 10 different places we could take our pulse in the body, or something like that, right? And that's connected to the 10 songs of the Tehillim. Through that, he was able to mamish transform the Yogayim v'anocha l'simcha. Maves l'chayim. He took death and he made death into life. He made to turn death into life. Ad shezocha. What?
How did he do that? Yeah.
How did he do that? Through his davening, through his tefillah. David HaMelech believed that HaKadosh Baruch Hu, he understood Shivisi Hashem Lenegdi Samin. He understood that HaKadosh Baruch Hu was with him. And he understood that I'm going to cry out to Hashem. Whether I'm having my problems today, or if he had a good day, he would cry to Hashem and give HaKadosh Baruch Hu thanks for the good day. He lived his life only with Hashem. Only with Hashem. He only lived with Hashem his whole life. That's how he was able to take the death. And that's why we said Adam Arishan gave the 70 years to David, because David HaMelech was not supposed to be alive, but Adam Arishan saw that David HaMelech is going to be the answer, then to be the Tikkun, to be the repair for the mistakes that he made, and he understood that that'll be the final Tikkun that the world needs to fix his mistakes. Remember the biggest mistake that Adam Rishon made was, and he understood that, was when HaKadosh Baruch Hu asked Adam Rishon, he asked him, so what happened? Did you eat from, why did you eat from the tree? So he said, what? It's Aisha Shenasata, that wife that you gave me. It wasn't my fault, it was her fault. It wasn't my fault. He didn't take responsibility. It was her fault. It wasn't my fault. And then what happened when HaKadosh Baruch Hu asked Chava, what happened? So what did she say? It's a Nachash. It's his fault, the Nachash. Really, what could they both have said? I'm sorry. Hashem, yes, I made a mistake. I'm sorry. That's all they had to do. And Adam Arishan understood that. Adam Arishan understood. Later he understood. After Cain killed Hevel, and he saw that HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave him that dog to keep him, and that HaKadosh Baruch Hu was protecting him. He saw that there was an idea of tshuva. Adam Rishon understood what he should have done. Adam Rishon understood that. So that's why Adam Rishon was so willing to give over to David HaMelech, that was supposed to be born as a stillborn, to give to David HaMelech life. Maves, death, stillborn death, l'chayim. Ad shezocha liyos nichlo b'chayim liyolam. Until David HaMelech was included in life for eternity. Kamei shekosav taidieni oida chayim soiva samocha es panecha b'chinas David Melech Yisrael chay v'kayim. David Melech Yisrael chay v'kayim. David Melech Yisrael chay v'kayim is alive and well Every time we read the Tehillim, every time we learn one of the teachings of David HaMelech, the sifsais of our doivers b'kivra, it says that the lips are moving in the kever. The lips are moving. So David HaMelech is alive. We know that the tzaddikim don't die. Whatever that means, we don't understand. But David HaMelech, Yisrael Chai V'Kayim. We know that David Malka Mashiach is Chai V'Kayim. So what do we see from this? So that's why HaKadosh Baruch Hu told, Moshe Rabbeinu was telling over what HaKadosh Baruch Hu taught Klal Yisrael, that we have to have a Karas HaTayv. We have to have always a Karas HaTayv. It's the most important to have a Karas HaTayv. So there's a beautiful story I can tell you on this idea of the Akaras HaTayv from the great Rosh Yeshiva Rav Shach Great Sadiq V'Kodesh L'Vracha. So we know that Rav Shach, he lived in Bnei Brak, right? He lived in that holy city of Bnei Brak. And Rav Shach, when he was in his 90s, Rav Shach was mamish on fire. He was mamish on fire with Torah. Even when he was, I think he was 92, he was on fire with Torah, and he was arguing the pilpul back and forth to make sure that the Bachram understood that the sugya, and he would mamish give his all. He would mamish give all his all. One time, he was in the middle of discussing. He was standing, and he was in the middle of giving over this pilpul, and he stubbed his toe or something on a pebble, on this. I don't know what happened, and the Rosh Yeshiva was falling down. And there was one of the Bach saw this guy Joey saw this. He was visiting. And he jumped down to the floor, and he caught the Rosh Yeshiva, and he was able to stand him back up. And the Rosh Yeshiva was, meanwhile, the whole thing was going on. He was talking and learning. He was talking and learning the whole time. He was mamish giving over the shir the same way. He was in the middle of doing the shir like nothing happened. When the Rosh Yeshiva finished his pshat that he wanted to give over, so he said, "Who was the one that helped me?" So they said, "This guy Joey. He was visiting from New York. The guy's visiting, and he helped." He says, "Bring him to me." So they brought this guy to Rav Shach, and they said to Rav Shach, he told him, I can't thank you enough. You saved my life. He said like this. He said, "I want to give you a bracha," and he said, he said like this. Not only do I want to give you a bracha now, anytime you come to Eretz Yisrael, come to me, and I want to always give you a bracha to thank you for what you did for me. So over the years, Rav Shach lived to about 106 years old. So each year this show would come back, and Rav Shach would give him beautiful brachas. Every time he would see him, he would give him beautiful brachas. When Rav Shach was about 106, so Joey came. He came to Bnei Brak, and he had his shamas, and he came to the apartment. And he knocked on the door. The shamas came, and he said, "I'm here to see Rav Shach. I have to get a bracha from him." No. The Rav Shach is out of commission for the past few months, and he hasn't spoken anything. He's laying in bed. So he said, please, I'm sorry, you can't see the Rebbe. So he left. And he walked down the block, and he was thinking to himself, "What is this? I can't believe it. I'm here in Bnei Brak, and I'm not going to see the Rebbe." So he goes back again, and he knocks and says, "I have to see the Rebbe. I need a bracha." So he said, "I told you can't come in. The Rebbe's out of commission right now. You can't come in." So they said, "Okay, fine." Then finally he came back again, and he said like this. He said, if I can't get a bracha from the Rebbe, then let me at least see the tzad. I want to see the Rosh Yeshiva. I want to at least see him, and I'll walk out. I want to see the Rosh Yeshiva, and I'll walk away, and I won't bother you anymore. So he said, fine. You could come see the Rosh Yeshiva. So he came into the room of the Rosh Yeshiva. Rav Shach, the Great Sadiq, was laying in his bed. And the shamas saw, as soon as he walked into the room, Rav Shach started talking. Mind you, Rav Shach didn't speak in a few months. He didn't speak. When Joey walks into the room, he starts speaking. He starts giving him a bracha like nothing ever happened. They didn't understand. And Joey thanked the Rosh Yeshiva, and he was so delighted that he was able to get that bracha from the Rosh Yeshiva. He was so delighted. He thanked the Rosh Yeshiva and he left. And after that, the Shamas could not believe it. The Shamas could not believe this. He was the Shamas, the Rosh Yeshiva's Shamas. He helped him. He was his attendant. And the Rosh Yeshiva wasn't talking at all. And all of a sudden, he starts talking. What's happened here? So the whole idea was the idea of Hakaras HaTov. Hakaras HaTov. What was the Hakaras HaTov? That he understood that this he said to this Joe, he said to him, every time you hear, I'm going to give you a bracha. So of course Rav Shach understood that every word he said was so important. And he never would chas v'shalom utter a word that he wouldn't fulfill. Now he came to his room, even though he didn't have the kelim to do it. But he was such a tzaddik, and he had to fulfill what it was. He couldn't be that I said I'm going to do something, that I'm going to give a bracha, and I'm not going to give him a bracha. Can it be? And he did it. He did it. So you see how a beautiful idea of the idea of this concept of Hakaras HaTov. So Moshe Rabbeinu is telling us that we shouldn't make tsar for Moav and Midian. Don't do that. Don't be mitzvah. You may have to go to bad, whatever it is, but don't pain them. Don't pain them. Why? Because you have to have a Hakaras HaTov. From them is going to come, you have to think about this, from them is going to come David Malka Mashiach that's going to bring the final Tikkun to the world. This is what we're waiting for. This is what we're waiting for Mashiach to come any moment now. Any moment. Mashiach is going to come any moment. We just have to hang on a little bit more. Oid ma'at. Just a little bit more. Does anyone have any comments or questions? No, I said all these things and everyone's maskim? Wow. Rabbi Yaakov, you're maskim too? Wow.
100%.
100%. Shkaya.